Bienvenidos a otra edición de Cowboy TV.
And now, for my next number, I'd like to return to the classics. We're gonna take it back.
Way back. Back into time.
All right.
Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader.
Superman and Lex Luthor.
Katie Heron and the Plastics.
Things get interesting when we add positive and negative numbers together. Does that last example make sense?
Oh, it will.
Last episode, we talked about integers, positive whole numbers, and their opposites.
This week, we're going to see what happens when we add positive and negative integers together.
The first thing you need to know is that every single number has an evil twin or supervillain. That's called its opposite. If you're into comics or sci-fi, this will make total sense.
Opposites are the same distance from 0, but just on the opposite side of the number line. For example, say we have positive 5, which is in the positive direction from 0. There's a negative 5 lurking the negative side of 0, trying to plan its demise.
When these two numbers are added together, like the light side and the dark side of the Force, they create 0.
So, remember last episode when I said I owed my friend Shauna $50 because I bought this really cute denim jacket that I'm obsessed with? So Shauna, here's your money. Negative $50 plus $50 equals 0. So, I guess we're good now. Another example of opposite pairs.
But what if there's some disturbance within the force? Say you start with positive 4 and add negative 4. That makes 0. But what if negative 70 comes along? Then, like Anakin, in the clutches of Emperor Palpatine?
Oh, the number will definitely go to the negative side.
The powers are weak.
But then, Luke Skywalker comes and he's like, positive 1000. That's when the answer goes back on the positive side of the number line. In the battle between good and evil, the sign with the greatest force triumphs.
We saw good and evil at play, but positive and negative forces play a role in our daily lives as well, like high school, where there are positive people.
This is so much fun, guys.
We're your friends.
And then there are...
Of course all the negatives hang out together. How do I even begin to add the negatives?
Check it out. It's our burn book. We put all the rules of adding negative numbers and put them in there.
Try one.
Adding a negative number moves you in the negative direction.
That's negative. Put that in there.
Positive 1 plus negative 2 is negative 1. And what happens if we add negative numbers together?
With one snap, I can totally unenvelop you.
Negative 1 plus negative 1 plus negative 1 is negative 3.
Totally not going to say this part because you're probably in school, but in reality, I'm so much more than that.
Adding negative numbers together gets really negative.
Entering the world of adding negativity has a lot of rules.
When we add positive numbers, we move to the right, or in the positive direction on the number line. For example, when we add 4 and 3, we find 4 on the number line, and then we move to the right 3 spaces to get 7. But if we were adding a negative number, we move to the left or in the negative direction on their number line. For instance, let's say we have 4 plus negative 3. We find 4, then we move in the negative direction 3 places to 1.
So when we're adding positive numbers, we go to the right, and when we're adding negative numbers, we go to the left. Well, what happens if I break the rules?
Then you can't sit with us at lunch. And on Wednesdays, we wear pink. For instance, if we use the same numbers 4 and negative 3 but switch them around, you do it the same way. First, we'd find negative 3 on the number line, and because we're adding a positive 4, we'd go 4 in the positive direction to get 1. It's like the rules of math. You might have noticed something. Negative 3 plus 4 equals 1, and 4 plus negative 3 also equals 1. Addition is always commutative. Whether you're adding positive or negative numbers, if you swap them around, you get the same answer. That is so fetch. Stop trying to make fetch happen. It's not gonna happen.
One more thing to watch out for. Parentheses act as a force field, so we don't confuse the number sign with the operation. Much better.
The Milky Way Galaxy, home to our solar system. It's believed our solar system formed at least 4.5 billion years ago when a huge cloud of dust and gas collapsed into a dense mass. That mass began to spin and flatten into a disk. The center grew hotter and hotter until finally a new star, our sun, was born. Leftover dust and gases continue to whirl around the sun and over millions of years form the planets and moons that make up our solar system. The sun is at the center. Its gravity binds the solar system together. It accounts for 99% of the solar system's mass. The closest planet to the sun is Mercury, a relatively small planet known for its extremes of temperatures, above 800 degrees Fahrenheit during the day and minus 300 or so degrees at night. Next is Venus, the near twin of the Earth in size, mass, and density. Its atmosphere is mostly carbon dioxide, a greenhouse gas that traps the sun's heat and raises the surface temperature to nearly 900 degrees Fahrenheit. Clouds of sulfuric acid swirl above Venus's rocky surface. The third planet is Earth, an active planet that's constantly changing. More than 70% of its surface is covered by water. Earth teems with life, something that so far has been found nowhere else. Just beyond Earth lies Mars, a barren planet with striking geographic features, including red soil, canyons 4 times deeper than the Grand Canyon, and polar ice. Between Mars and the next planet is the asteroid belt, millions of rocky fragments, most no more than a mile across. The 5th planet from the Sun is far and away the largest, Jupiter, a gaseous giant big enough to hold more than 1,300 Earths. Its great red spot alone, a huge hurricane-like storm, is twice as wide as Earth. Saturn, the 2nd largest planet, is next, famous for its massive rings of ice and ice-covered particles. 7th from the Sun is Uranus, which is unique because it rotates on its side. It too has rings and at least 27 moons. Neptune, the 8th planet, is perhaps the windiest place in the solar system, with gusts over 1,200 miles per hour. Neptune marks the end of the planets, but not the end of the solar system. Farther on is Pluto, a dwarf planet. At its greatest distance, Pluto orbits more than 4.5 billion miles from the Sun. As vast and diverse as our solar system is, it's but one in a galaxy of billions of stars, in a universe comprised of billions of galaxies.
Our topic for today is life cycle of a butterfly. A butterfly lays eggs on the leaves of a plant. These eggs hatch, and young ones called larvae, or caterpillars, come out of the eggs. The caterpillar first feeds on the eggshell from which it is born. It then starts feeding on the leaves and starts to grow. The caterpillar sheds its skin several times so that it can grow. Once the caterpillar is big enough, it stops eating. It then forms a protective layer around itself. This stage is called chrysalis. In this stage, the caterpillar is now called pupa. The pupa remains motionless in the chrysalis. Inside the chrysalis, the pupa undergoes a series of changes. After about 15 days, a beautiful adult butterfly emerges out of the chrysalis. When the butterfly comes out, its wings are small and wet. The butterfly pumps fluids into its wings to make them strong and to expand. After a few hours, the wings become strong enough and the butterfly is able to fly. These series of changes in the life cycle of a butterfly is called metamorphosis.
Will ich nicht. Ich will auch nicht ein Ei machen. Kann ich nicht. Hab ich's.
4 years ago, today exactly, actually, I started a fashion blog called Style Rookie. Last September of 2011, I started an online magazine for teenage girls called RookieMag.com. My name's Tavi Gevinson, and the title of my talk is Still Figuring It Out. And the MS Paint quality of my slides was a total creative decision in keeping with today's theme and has nothing to do with my inability to use PowerPoint. So, I edit this site for teenage girls. I'm a feminist, I am kind of a pop culture nerd, and I think a lot about what makes a strong female character. And, you know, movies and TV shows, these things have influenced my own website. So I think the question of what makes a strong female character often goes misinterpreted, and instead we get these two-dimensional superwomen who maybe have one quality that's played up a lot, like, you know, a Catwoman type, or she, like, plays her sexuality up a lot and it's seen as power, but they're not strong characters who happen to be female. They're completely flat, and they're basically cardboard characters. The problem with this is that then people expect women to be that easy to understand, and women are mad at themselves for not being that simple, when in actuality, women are complicated, women are multifaceted, not because women are crazy, but because people are crazy and women happen to be people. So the flaws are the key. I'm not the first person to say this. What makes a strong female character is a character who has weaknesses, who has flaws, who is maybe not immediately likable, but eventually relatable. I don't like to acknowledge a problem without also acknowledging those who work to fix it, so just wanted to acknowledge shows like Mad Men, movies like Bridesmaids, whose female characters or protagonists are complex, multifaceted. Lena Dunham, who's on here, her show on HBO that premieres next month, Girls, she said she wanted to start it because she felt that every woman she knew was just a bundle of contradictions. And that feels accurate for all people, but you don't see women represented like that as much. Congrats, guys. But I still feel that there are some types of women who are not represented that way. And one group that we'll focus on today are teens, because I think teenagers are especially contradictory and still figuring it out. And in the 90s, there was Freaks and Geeks and My So-Called Life, and their characters, Lindsay Weir and Angela Chase, I mean, the whole premise of the shows were just them trying to figure themselves out, basically. But those shows only lasted a season each, and I haven't really seen anything like that on TV since. So this is a scientific diagram of my brain around the time when I started watching those TV shows. I was like ending middle school, starting high school. I'm a sophomore now. And I was trying to reconcile all of these differences that you're told you can't be when you're growing up as a girl. You can't be smart and pretty. You can't be a feminist who's also interested in fashion. You can't care about clothes if it's not for the sake of what other people, usually men, will think of you. So I was trying to figure all that out, and I felt a little confused, and I said so on my blog, and I said that I wanted to start a website for teenage girls that was not this kind of one-dimensional, strong character empowerment thing, because I think one thing that can be very alienating about a misconception of feminism is that girls then think that to be a feminist, they have to live up to, you know, being perfectly consistent in your beliefs, never being insecure, never having doubts, having all of the answers. And this is not true, and actually reconciling all the contradictions I was feeling became easier once I understood that feminism was not a rule book, but a discussion, a conversation, a process. And this is a spread from a zine that I made last year when I think I've let myself go a bit on the illustration front since, but yeah. So I said on my blog that I wanted to start this publication for teenage girls and ask people to submit their writing, their photography, whatever, to be a member of our staff. I got about 3,000 emails. My editorial director and I went through them and put together a staff of people, and we launched last September. And this is an excerpt from my first editor's letter, where I say that, rookie, we don't have all the answers. We're still figuring it out too, but the point is not to give girls the answers, and not even give them permission to find the answers themselves, but hopefully inspire them to understand that they can give themselves that permission. They can ask their own questions, find their own answers, all of that. And Rookie, I think we've been trying to make it a nice place for all of that to be figured out. So I'm not saying, like, be like us and we're perfect role models, because we're not, but we just want to help represent girls in a way that shows those different dimensions. I mean, we have articles called On Taking Yourself Seriously, How to Not Care What People Think of You. But we also have articles like, oops, oh, no, I'm figuring it out. If you use that, you can get away with anything. We also have articles called How to Look Like You Weren't Just Crying in Less Than 5 Minutes. So, all of that being said, I still really appreciate those characters, you know, in movies and, you know, articles like that on our site that are just about being totally powerful, maybe finding your acceptance with yourself and self-esteem and your flaws and in how you accept those. So, what I want you to take away from my talk, the lesson of all of this, is to just be Stevie Nicks. Like, that's all you have to do. Because my favorite thing about her, other than, like, everything, is that she has always been unapologetically present on stage, and unapologetic about her flaws and about reconciling all of her contradictory feelings, and she makes you listen to them and think about them, and yeah, so please be Stevie Nicks. Thank you.
So today I'm going to teach you how to make homemade cheesecake. So you will need some Philadelphia cream cheese, some vanilla flavor, sweetened condensed milk, 2 eggs, 1 tablespoon, and also a pie crust. Also some little egg. So you're going to start off with putting your cream cheese. So here's what it looks like. And then you just put it on low or high. And you put on your oven 350 degrees. So now, as you guys can see, it's ready. Now you go over here with your pie crust and then just dump it in there. Until it's full. And like that. Okay. So then you just leave it in there about an hour and 5 minutes, and and then you just let it cool off for another hour, and then you just put it in your refrigerator.
Hey Cowboys, on Monday and Tuesday there are band UILs. On Wednesday there is a band and choir UIL. And on Thursday and Friday there are choir UILs. Now for sports.
Wednesday there is a girls track meet after school at the Auxiliary Stadium. Thursday there is a boys track meet after school at the Auxiliary Stadium. Friday we will have the flag football game against the 7th and 8th grade teachers. Have a nice weekend, Cowboys.